Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 907B, and today's date is March 1st, 2016, and the title of the episode is U.S. and the Coalition Forces Special Op Teams Unleashed in the Middle East. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the battle between the U.S. government, FBI, and Apple is continuing. But what's very interesting is a federal judge basically handed a crucial win in its fight for encryption on Monday, as a New York federal judge denied a government all-writs act-based motion to compel Apple's assistance in bypassing the encryption safeguards of an iPhone linked to years-old drug cases. In his ruling, he said, and this is coming from Magistrate Judge James Orenstein, he decided the government lacks the legal authority to force Apple, or indeed any company, to break its own digital security protocols. And we can see right now that Apple is on the winning edge of this, and it seems that the U.S. government, the FBI, the other agencies are going to continually push this issue. And Obama did something very interesting. Obama is on the verge right now of permitting the National Security Agency to share more of the private communications it intercepts with other American intelligence agencies without first applying any privacy protections to them. The idea is to let more experts across American intelligence gain direct access to the information. That means more officials will be looking at private messages, not only foreign phone calls and emails, but also American phone calls, emails, and data. The executive branch have been developing this new framework for years now. President George W. Bush set the change in motion through a little notice line in the 2008 executive order, and the Obama administration has been quietly developing this framework for how to carry it out since taking office since 2009. So when he told us that he's going to stop the NSA, there'll be no more spying on the American people, well, again, it's the opposite of what he has been telling us. Basically, the government at this point doesn't really care about the rights of the people. They're doing whatever they want. Again, they have laws that they follow, and then they expect the people to follow different laws. It's a double standard right now, and they want to know what everyone is doing. They need to spy on every single person. They need to realize what groups are being formed, what investment ideas are out there, what patents are coming up. They're using it to blackmail judges, government employees. They're using this for many different agendas. And the biggest thing that they're worried about is the American people having weapons, and they are continually trying to push the idea that we need to take away the weapons from the people to keep them safe from all these crazy mass shooters out there. Well, actually, I'd rather have a weapon if there is a mass shooter out there. Why would I want to be unarmed? It makes no sense, because we know the criminals will always get what they need. Okay, during Prohibition, guess what? All the law-abiding citizens didn't have alcohol. But guess what? On the black market, you can get alcohol. Politicians were able to get alcohol. The only people that couldn't get alcohol were the law-abiding citizens. And this goes the same with guns. And the reason why they're trying to basically disarm the American people is because they want a controllable population. So they put forth this legislation, which was pushed once before, where they want to have everyone get gun insurance. They would force gun owners to purchase liability insurance. And this is being pushed in 3 states right now and the city of Los Angeles. Under the proposal, the gun owners would face fines up to about $10,000 if you didn't get liability insurance. And the law also would require individuals to prove they have insurance prior to buying a firearm. So we see this is happening in New York State, and they want people to maintain a $250,000 liability coverage. We see Hawaii is doing the same thing. The city of Los Angeles is doing it. New Hampshire is doing it. Vermont is doing it. And this is the same proposal which failed in Congress that Representative Carolyn Maloney pushed forward, which was the Firearm Risk Protection Act. Now, this is not going to keep everyone safe because you have insurance on your firearm. You have insurance on your car. Does that really keep you safe? No. All it does is pay out after the action occurred. So all the law-abiding people will purchase the insurance. They'll have it on their weapon. They won't be committing the crimes. And let's see, the criminals who don't abide by the law, they're not going to get insurance. It's meaningless. This is a way to keep people from purchasing weapons, and it's a way to make the insurance companies very wealthy because you know they're not going to pay out on any of this. That when something is committed with a weapon, some type of crime, they're going to have a little clause in there that says, oh no, we don't pay out on crimes. So what's the purpose of the liability insurance? And you'll see they'll have all these clauses in there where they don't pay out at all. This whole entire scam is basically to keep the weapons out of the everyday person. Period. It doesn't keep you safe. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't do anything except bring in money to the insurance companies. They can wrap taxes around it to bring in revenue, and people have to pay more money out of their pockets. Now, out in North Korea, we understand the U.S. is putting a lot of pressure on North Korea right now because of their testing of this non-existent hydrogen bomb. They didn't have any proof. There was no radiation. They couldn't show any proof that this actually happened. All there was an earthquake. They went with that with the propaganda. And the United States went and placed sanctions on North Korea, submitted it to the UN. And right now, the United Nations, they have postponed a vote on these new sanctions. And it was postponed because of Russia. They requested this to be postponed, and it looks like they're going to be looking at this again on Wednesday. So we'll have to see what happens if the provocation moves forward. That means the U.S. is continually provoking North Korea, and more sanctions are being placed. They want North Korea to do something. Now, the Syrian peace talks, they are postponed until March 9th. And they will resume in Geneva. It looks like they had a little bit of a rescheduling of these peace talks. We see Russia has strengthened the air grouping in Syria. They brought in more fighters, 4 Su-35Ss. We see 12 Su-34s, 32 Su-24s, 12 Su-25s, 15 Mi-8s, 12 Mi-24s, and so on. And we can see they're continually bombing the Islamic State, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda. And right now on February 28th, the Syrian Arab Army reopened the supply route to Aleppo. We see on February 29th that the Syrian army launched a military operation into different areas. And they are liberating a lot of these towns, villages, and cities. The United States at this point is running out of time. The Syrian army and Russia have been pushing back the Islamic State, and they've been pushing them out of the country. Remember, they are the proxy army for the United States government central bankers, the Islamic State, al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, and the other terrorist groups. The moderate rebels are all intertwined, and right now, if Russia and Syria continue with this, there is no reason for the coalition forces to be in Syria whatsoever. And remember, the only reason the United States is saying that they're in there and the coalition forces are in Syria is to fight terrorism. But if there's no terrorist group left in Syria, there's no reason for them to be there. Remember, the elected government of Syria did not invite them in. They're there illegally. They invaded a country. Yes, Russia was invited in by the elected government. Now, at this point, we realize that Turkey is not abiding by the ceasefire whatsoever. They don't care about it. Their mission, which is coming from NATO and the U.S., is to keep this alive, keep the corridor open. We're seeing Turkish military units. They're continually massing more and more troops along the border. Militants right now are pouring across the border into Syria. In the Raqqa province, a group of about 100 fighters crossed into Syria from Turkey. 250-strong group was supported by artillery fire from the Turkish territory that also came into Syria. And we can see right now that Turkey is not even pausing right now. They're continually shelling into Syria. Now, this entire ceasefire is a cover because what was happening is Russia and Syria were completely destroying their proxy armies, and they were losing ground very quickly. They needed this pause to basically reinforce the forces there and to reposition everything and come up with a new plan, which they're working on right now. But this whole entire ceasefire is a complete trap because you know eventually what's going to happen. The U.S. and the other Western powers are going to accuse Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, the Syrian government of breaking the ceasefire. And they'll say, well, they broke the ceasefire. It's completely off, and we're going in. And we can see they're getting prepared for this. Now, can they just bring ground troops into Syria? No, this would look kind of obvious because why would you need all these ground troops? Because who are they really fighting? The Islamic State is almost gone. So what would be their reasoning? So this way, this is the reason why they need some type of an event. They need to make their case of why they're bringing this in. Now, Russia, they want to close the Turkish border. They're saying it has to be completely sealed off, and they want that corridor closed. And they want to regain control of the entire Syria border, which is bordering Turkey right now. And they're going to close it on their end. And they're going to keep patrols. And this is going to pose a problem. They cannot allow this to happen. This is why they're working on the next plan. This is why Turkey is continually shelling, to keep this open. And we can see right now that Russia is also calling for a convention on chemical terrorism. Because they're saying right now there is no existing international law that solves the issue of prohibiting the use of chemical weapons by non-state actors, by terrorists. And the U.S. government central bankers knew this when they created the proxy army, the Islamic State, where they allow them to use chemical weapons in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen, because there's nothing that anyone can do, because they're terrorists. There's nothing about it in international law. And this was their plan from the beginning. Now, a lot of the attacks, they were able to say, oh, no, it was Assad, and they tried to blame him. Now, we know that countries, at least 49 of them that we know of, got together and gathered at NATO headquarters in Brussels, and they talked about this invasion into Syria. Now, you know they've come up with a plan. You know they're getting prepared to do this. Saudi Arabia is saying that they will participate, and they have already admitted that the U.S. coalition forces are all in on this. They're all ready to do this. Now, we know there are special forces in Libya. We know that the U.S. has it. We know France is in there. And pretty much there's other countries that are in this area. We see the U.S. has special op forces in Syria. Right now, we're getting word that Delta Force is being unleashed into Iraq. Of course, under the illusion they're going after the Islamic State. Now, part of their mission is to destroy any evidence that leads back to Erdogan or to the United States or the coalition forces. So they're being sent in to destroy anything that they can get their hands on. Because we see the Iraqi forces, just like they did in Ramadi without the U.S. help, they're going into Mosul. So they're sending in Delta Force ahead of time to get rid of anything that's in there. And we see at this point that their plan that they have right now is a go. Because remember, they have a huge military buildup in Iraq. They have 2 air bases in the northern part of Iraq, which borders Syria right now. We see in Lebanon, we're getting all these warnings. Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, they're all pulling their diplomats out of Lebanon. Travel advisories are posted. And we get this little piece of information from the Pentagon that the international community will support Lebanon's military should there be an Islamic State attack in the country. This is coming from a U.S. official in Washington. So what does this tell us? It tells us their plan is a go. They're getting ready to go into Lebanon. They're getting ready to go into Libya. It looks like they're going into all the countries where they need to reinforce their puppet governments or remove the elected governments and put back their puppet governments. Now, very interestingly, we're getting another warning. The U.S. is coming out and saying that U.S. citizens are now cautioned against visiting Turkey in the southeastern region. Now, why would this be? There's a travel warning right now that they shouldn't even go near that area. The reason for this is because they're getting ready for a major offensive. It's strange that they're giving a warning during a ceasefire, because this warning really didn't come out any time before this, which is kind of odd, since there was a full-blown war going on and Russia was in there bombing, but now we're getting it during a peaceful period, which tells us that something is coming. So we see already all these pieces are in motion. The Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier with Egypt heading towards the Mediterranean for Libya. Lebanon, travel warning. U.S. officials said, yes, we will go back into Lebanon if the Islamic State attacks. Libya right now, special op teams already in there. We know that France is getting ready with the coalition forces to go back into Libya. We see in Iraq, military buildup, Delta Force going into Iraq. We see already the travel warning in Turkey. The U.S. has amphibious warships in the Mediterranean. The U.S. has Harry Truman. All the pieces are coming together. They're getting ready for this major offensive. They're trying to get everything ready to go. We're waiting for the green light. And if this report holds true, it looks like the go time will be between April and May. And this is what we'll be looking at. Now, is their plan always perfect? Does it always work out? We might see this build up. We might see some type of an event to get things started, but it might fall apart. This is something that we have to look at. But all the indicators at this point, it is definitely pointing to this time frame and to what they're going to do. Because remember, the economy is continually collapsing. There's no way to save it. Yes, they can manipulate it. They can put it off. But eventually what's going to happen is the entire system's going to come down. And they have two choices. One, they let it just collapse on its own. Everyone blames the U.S. government. Everyone blames the central bankers. And the people demand, we can't do this again. We need them replaced. No more central bank. Now, we know they don't want this to happen. Second alternative, start a war. Take all eyes off of them. Place it somewhere else. Tell people they need to go fight because another country, another group destroyed our economy. And this will save them, because we know for a fact they will try to restart the entire system. So what are we looking for at this point? We're looking for events. Now, when I say events, these are false flags where they try to pin it on someone. They create them and say, oh, they did it. Now, the event could be in the United States, it could be in Europe, or it could be in the Middle East someplace. But we're looking to see where this happens. Now, if it's in the Middle East and they have this event to call off the ceasefire, they're not ready to bring down the economy. All they're doing right now is trying to reestablish the puppet governments throughout the Middle East, and they're making a push to take Syria. If this is going poorly, and they're not getting traction, and they're not getting anywhere with this, and Russia and Syria are winning, the people in these countries are winning, we will then see them move to their second event, which would be in the United States, in Europe, in Canada, Australia, all at once, to get everyone into war before this entire system comes down. And this is what we're watching for. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.